you are speaking, that you speak directly into the mic. So we're going to call the meeting to order. It's 1:30. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Our first order of business is the approval of our last meeting's minutes. So I trust that everybody's had a chance to review those. If there are no corrections or revisions that are needed, I'd entertain.
I will so move.
Okay, we have a first.
Second.
Second, Jan second. Any other discussion? If there is none, then if you would affirm by saying aye, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Minutes are accepted. Okay. Alyssa, would you talk to us about claims?
Right, so in your packet, you had a piece of paper that looked like this. And it has the rundown of all of the claims that have been paid since our last meeting. I know before,
Give us a chance to find that
Okay.
page.
looks like this. And Brad, I don't know if you have one. You can steal Bruce's book.
That's fine. I'll glance over the
I would say steal Bruce's book. It's all in the front of
Yeah.
Bruce's book.
Even with my glasses.
On the left-hand side.
Oh, it's in the pocket, not in the,
Right.
okay.
And these are the minutes.
Fine a minute. She's
There
got
you
it in order. Okay, did everybody find it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you will see the individual totals there for each of the TIF areas. The first one is the 30 West TIF. And there was $194,982.27 worth of claims paid from there. You will notice the last couple lines, there's a credit memo from Brooks Construction. It turned out that they were charging the highway department the wrong price per ton for some of the asphalt and things that we were purchasing. So there was a great big credit came back. So we had to get it all split back out into the right TIF areas, and some of it was paid by the highway. So that's why you're seeing those negative amounts there. If we move on to the co-op TIF, you can see that 2016, $465.66 has been spent from there, and you'll also see some credit memos there. And then for the Van Buren TIF, there was $242,429.36. And all of these are the from the road projects that you all approved with the TIF dollars. And I have the signature sheet. Rather than us just reading something into the minutes, I'd like to start doing this so we have complete proof, not just you guys saying, oh yeah, we approve the claims. That way we have your signature on something. Is there any questions with any of that?
You want to send that around now, or are you going to do it at the
We'll
end?
do
of
it at the end
at
because
the
I
end.
got to get your signatures on the meeting minutes also. So
Okay,
we'll save those to the end.
okay, very good. Any questions, discussion on the paid claims? I think that's a nice improvement, Alyssa, though, in handling it that way.
Yeah, so if somebody can make a motion to approve the claims.
I so move. Second.
Rachel, any other discussion? All those in favor, if you could respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And I'm going out of order, Alyssa. Jan accurately noted, it's really nice that you've added the terms and
Yes, that's a new requirement by law
Oh,
that we
You see
have.
the
we just
credit,
saw
Alyssa,
you.
yeah.
Did that while you're on.
No, we did it because we had to. Thanks though. Yeah,
Okay, nice addition. Okay, approval of the meeting dates. Also in the
Okay,
pocket?
let's do the spending plan next.
Spending plan, okay.
So every year on the gateway, we have to submit the spending plan and update it as changes are made. And this is your piece of paper. It should say 26 and TIF annual spending plan with the date 11/25 at the top, because that's when I actually updated it. So you will see that on this sheet, on the flip side of that page is the detail of the spending So it's basically, they want us to list our miscellaneous revenues that we will be getting, which the only thing we get is the money from the actual TIF increment financing from settlements. And then it wants us to list if we had any debt, which is, we do not. Then it wants the bond proceeds or payments that we're going to make. So you can see there in the Dreyfus TIF area and the True Point TIF area are the bond payment amounts, estimated bond payment amounts.
And that's the warrant expenses, right?
Yes, if we had any capital expenditures or projects that we had approved for 26, those would be listed there where it says capital expenditures allowed. So for 26, at this time, we have none. We will update the spending plan as those come about. And then you can see that we have this professional expenses, and that $2,500 is the Redevelopment Commission's portion of the contract for their financial advisor services to the Redevelopment Commission and the auditor's office.
Question is, that so, our legal representation, Adam, is that now coming out of the general?
It's
Well,
covered, it's
covered.
covered in the commissioner's budget, I believe.
Okay,
So,
okay.
yes,
So we wouldn't, yeah, I was thinking that was Adam, but that's Reedy, but we won't expect to see Adams anywhere on our 26 budget.
I don't think so, no,
Okay,
unless something changes. So in the end, what it shows is where they think our estimated January 1st balances will be. So you can just review those, and those are close. Keep in mind that there's some projects up here that we haven't paid the full amount for. So some of those will be off, and it just trying to get them some kind of an idea of an estimate of where our balances might be. The beginning balances is what is on your spreadsheets in your binder book. So that's where those numbers came from. And in the end, all we have to submit to Gateway is the flip side, showing the $109,000 of warrants or the bond payments, and then the $15,000 that we're going to pay for the legal fees or Reedy financial fees.
question for you, Alyssa, on the detailed page, the Leesburg TIF. Why is there such a dramatic change in fund balance on the Leesburg TIF alone?
I would estimate because of the revenue, and there hasn't really been projects. So it's kind of been untouched. So that's why that balance is larger.
Well,
We would need to kind of take a minute, probably at a later time,
okay,
and look at the TIF balances for the Leesburg TIF,
yeah, if we
which
could
was
do
in your
that.
which is in your spreadsheets in your book.
Yeah, the ending fund balance isn't really what's in question. It's the change in fund balance that has got me questioning.
And these reports are very, very hard to understand and figure out what numbers you're supposed to put where. So
Right.
we can take another look at that
And
one.
I didn't know if it's because, we basically put back the money that was allocated,
Right, there was no
for the
yeah,
Ready 2.0, and I don't
Right.
know so if we could just make sure that that's.
Yep.
We got a second set of eyes on that number.
Well, that's showing 975,000 in income.
In change.
Well, up here on TIF revenue, that's a lot.
Yeah, and over here it's-
975,000.
yeah, it may have gotten duplicated.
Yeah.
I'll double check
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, we could double check that, please.
That's why we do this.
Yes. So then Alyssa, again, at the bottom of the page, under the calculations, it says current fund balance. Then those numbers correlate with the sheets that are in our notebook.
They should be close to, because at this point, there's not really been much change.
Right,
And again, this is an estimated
right,
document.
right.
And I assume that at some point, the DLGF will start using it for something, but I don't think they are at this point. But we're trying to do everything we're supposed to be doing.
I don't like the use of acronyms, and so DLGF, can you?
Department of Local Government Finance.
Thank you.
So we'll go over, I'll go over that again. We'll send it out and then maybe we can revisit it in at our December meeting.
Could we let, I don't know if everybody's had a chance to kind of process, but let's just give folks just another minute just to
Okay.
look at it, see if they've got any other questions.
Is this the right one to compare to? The Leesburg?
That is the same, yeah.
Cause that's. I'm just wondering,
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go back and look, but yeah, I think we'll let Alyssa.
Alyssa, the question I'm trying to clarify, is this in our binder? These are the ones that we're looking at for,
Mhm.
yeah,
For Leesburg.
for Leesburg.
Looks like
Okay.
those balances correlate to this line right here,
That's what I was seeing.
right here.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the right.
Looks like some are still deep in their analysis, so we'll give it another minute here.
Yes, I think with that Leesburg, the Leesburg one, that figure just got carried forward in the spreadsheet probably, so I think that's gonna be an easy fix, just from looking at my
Okay,
documents here.
So does, I'm just doing a quick check on the summary of this front page here. And, what true point balance. Maybe I don't, let's see. No, it's Dreyfus, shows 459 on this summary sheet here.
So if you take Dreyfus, Dreyfus has two funds. They have a cash fund and they have a bond fund.
Okay,
the cash fund is the smaller of the two balances, is it not?
The cash fund has more money in it than
Okay, I've got it backwards. then.
than the bond fund.
But they're close.
okay, so we
They're
have to
very
take
close
the
together.
478 and add it to the 459.
Yeah, so that's how you
Gotcha.
get the 990 at the bottom.
Yeah,
Yep.
gotcha. All right.
And on the topic of Dreyfus, when a bond expires, is it, can they vary from a spring to a fall, or is it on a month, I mean, a given month, or is it at the beginning of the year? When?
Well, we have the schedule that we follow as far as the bond payments, and I believe True Point, there's one or two payments left. So we always pay those, and Dreyfus also is, I think they have maybe 3 or 4, but those are always paid after we have the settlement funds.
Okay.
And we only pay what the schedule says because we have to keep a certain percentage in those funds rather than just, we have the funds there, because I asked this question, why don't we just hurry up and pay them?
Mhm.
And yeah, I was told that we just have to keep a certain amount in there for budgeting reasons. So those will be done within the next 2 years.
They
There
both
won't,
will be the True Point and Dreyfus.
there won't be any bond payments left anymore. So then all of the TIF monies will go directly to the to a cash fund.
How much longer is on the TIF? I don't remember off the top of my head.
In your,
It's,
on,
yeah.
it says at the
20
top of that
36
36,
is for the cash fund
Yeah.
and the bond will be satisfied in next year.
right. So he needs that book.
He does.
I usually have one.
Yeah, I know.
Well, somebody else had their book, and so then we had an extra book, so that's how you got left out, and I'm
That's
sorry.
fine. If anybody's left out, I should be. That's fine.
So did True Point, who holds the bond? Did True Point?
I think it's Regions Bank or
Okay. Okay.
is who we make the payments to. If you look on your spreadsheet there, I think it says, it lists the vendor name there towards the end where it says a bond payment,
Regions, yeah.
Regions, yeah.
Well, that's on that's on Drive Post.
I think they're both at the same place.
I don't see Regions mentioned, but it would be reasonable to think that
Yes, I'm almost positive they're both held at the same place.
okay. Do we still need more time or do we have any other questions for Alyssa or? So I don't know that we need a motion at this point. Because we're
Nope.
not approving anything, right? You're gonna,
No, you don't need to at this point. Let's work through those questions that you guys have. And if you, after the meeting, if you look over them and still have questions, be sure to get them to me.
Mhm.
And we'll do our best to get them worked out, okay?
in our January meeting, would you be able to list, it was really helpful, like on the Drive Post, right at the top in bold, it says bond will be satisfied in 2026. It doesn't have that same, note on the True Point. But would you be able to tell us in our January meeting when that bond will actually be satisfied?
Yep.
That would be great.
I'm curious too. We had discussed, last meeting or maybe the meeting before about expanding the affected TIF areas. Is that something that's still being?
It is,
Considered.
and I failed to ask Alyssa to put it on this agenda, but yes, that's something that I think that we need to look at is any TIF that's near a town or any other development that would be positively impacted. If it would make sense to expand the economic impact area to encompass that, yeah, I still would like us to do that.
Yeah, and I think that would be something that, you would probably lean heavily on Reedy for, as far as what you're allowed to do, as far as expanding those areas. I don't know what how Adam feels about that, but
You're laughing at him.
Yeah, no comment. One of the things is,
Can you
kinda-
speak directly into the mic? Cause I'm,
it goes into the little bit more of the nuance of it, but still the test is gonna be back to whether or not the use benefits the TIF district itself. And not as so much the economic development area. But the more you expand that economic development area, the more maybe easier that correlation is to make. Does that make sense?
well, again, just to be clear, if I remember correctly, it's not development area, it's impact area, right? So it's economic development impact.
Area, yeah.
Not that we would be actively doing anything in that we would be responsible.
Right, but again, the test goes back to the TIF district. Does it benefit the TIF district?
I don't remember that from the presentations from Reedy. I understood that differently.
Yeah, well.
You're the lawyer,
presentations
so I'll
from
defer to
Reedy
you.
are What they are.
I think it might be useful if we had some ideas about what those areas might be. And, we could just sort of sketch them on a map and then Reedy take a look at them or sit down with Reedy and say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Does it make sense?
Mhm.
Because you also have towns will be considering not necessarily expanding TIF areas, but annexations. And what's the impact of the annexation?
Which that would be relevant as it relates to the TIF area.
Yeah,
But an economic impact area, economic development impact areas shouldn't have any,
The larger area.
well, it can be larger, but it wouldn't restrict a town from annexation
Right.
or impact any of those. Again, as I understand it, and I thought I specifically asked that question, Adam, to Reedy, as far as, what kind of latitude we would have as it related to designating the impact area. But we'll definitely consult with them and, so chicken or the egg, would it make sense for us to discuss what we think makes sense and then present to them? Or do we want to have them provide direction?
I think
Before we
somebody
can
ought to
start.
get together what the commission's thoughts are and get it to them far in advance. So you guys can have time to kind of work it out
Okay.
before it's actually discussed in a meeting.
So if you had perhaps a sub-working group or something like that, yeah,
We have any
that could take a look. at that.
volunteers that want to form that committee and they have an ad hoc?
I would work on that committee.
Okay, so we got one. Anybody
So
else?
let me ask, we're talking about the existing
The existing TIFs and then their
And the
corresponding
areas.
economic development
impacted.
impact. And the way that we've done it so far as a county, when I asked our county officials as well as Reedy, I think I even asked Baker Tilly, we've always, the TIF and the economic development impact map have been identical. We've never distinguished between the two or deviated. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So I want to understand what you're saying though, and you as well. So there's a TIF district and it's a certain area and the economic impact area is larger. And you think that we could, like, the economic impact area outside of the specific TIF area, you're saying, Doug, that it could be a beneficiary. And I think, Adam, what you're saying is only in the case that there is a direct benefit to the TIF area, right?
An example, can you look at your
But
notes? I'm sorry.
does expanding the economic development impact area help maybe justify that argument? Maybe, but I don't think, what I don't want the commission to do is just get willy-nilly about expanding for the sake of expanding. We really have to have targeted of this is an area that needs effort and expand the impact area to match that rather than just expansion for expansion's sake.
So is the economic area now the same as the TIF
I think
district?
all of the,
Yes.
that-
Okay.
that's
Yes.
correct on that. That's universally true for all of the counties. That's, yeah.
So the decision that we made at our last meeting for Claypool Sewer, right? So if you look at the maps that Alyssa's provided, you've got the Dreyfus TIF, right? Claypool is, well, if this is oriented to the north, no, because Dreyfus is north of Claypool. So Claypool is
to the
south,
east.
right? So if you look at the map, the TIF ends at 700 South, which is north of the town of Claypool. But what we approved is the $250,000 for the sewer expansion of the town of Claypool. The TIF district for Dreyfus, I believe, like for instance, Dreyfus is benefiting from the sewer plant that is in Claypool. So one of the arguments for the approval of that is that Dreyfus is using the capacity of that sewer plant. And so the economic development impact of the current Dreyfus TIF, I would argue, should include Claypool. Because right now, the TIF that the dollars that we allocated at our last meeting is being utilized, I think appropriately, but outside of the TIF map. But more importantly, it's outside of the economic development impact map, because the two are the same. So if we were to expand the impact map to include at least a portion of Claypool, I think that would serve everyone's interest better. I don't know if that makes sense, but that would,
You're not necessarily saying that it should, are you saying we should expand?
not the TIF,
Okay,
Just
the impact area.
yeah, just the impact area. Okay.
Because Dreyfus is impacting the area beyond the TIF area. They're sending 60,000 gallons of sewage to Claypool, that Claypool has to deal with it. So it would seem reasonable to think that the economic development impact map should include a portion of Claypool because they're being impacted by Dreyfus.
I don't know I know that the TIF cannot cross the boundaries of the town. I don't know if the economic development impact area can go across entity boundaries.
So that's something that we need clarification from Reedy.
And also you need to keep in mind that Claypool has 3 other TIFs
Yes.
that belong to them, to their own town.
Correct.
So
Now, that would be problematic if we wanted to expand the TIF area into Claypool.
I think it still needs to be investigated.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no disagreement with that.
Right,
I'm just trying to explain the rationale behind why we would want to consider whether or not expanding the impact area. Because until Reedy met with us, I don't know that we understood that there was a distinction between those 2 maps.
Except you're saying there isn't a distinction?
No, I mean, that
100%
the maps can be different.
100% is the distinction. I still, the test cell though is going to be back to the TIF area and whether or not the use of those funds is impacted by that TIF area. And so, that's going to be that test of whether, we did it for Claypool, and that one's interesting in and of itself because it's infrastructure that the county doesn't own, right? But it's still public infrastructure, right? So that one, and Alyssa will talk to that a little bit too when we talk about that, but that's a unique situation. It's not the same as, the highway department and US 30 out here with Slate, right? That's county, that's county, maintained roads. So the question was the same, whether or not the economic development area, impact area went into the town or not. Does the spend benefit the TIF district?
So we have a lot of questions here about, and what we're really talking about is, these have all developed over time as the need arose. And taking a look at what we have in the county now, and strategically with our advisor to help us understand if we are overlooking an opportunity or.
right. And I would encourage, discussion probably with the commissioners and the council to see if they have anything on the horizon or in their plan that needs to also maybe be addressed.
Well, and I think it also would be helpful to have that settled in advance because obviously there's going to be a lot of TIF dollars flowing into the old 30 TIF district with Slate. And I know that there are some projects that the county's identified that they would like to consider that are going to be outside of the TIF area.
Yeah.
But that will benefit Slate and those within the TIF district. But the impact is going to be much broader than that narrow band that currently contains the TIF district. So I think it's timely that we engage Reedy and get clarification on this because I think it'll allow us to be more strategic and move more quickly, but already having the issue settled and make it easier for us to use dollars in a strategic way for the benefit of the county. So if I were to schedule something Reedy, Alyssa, would you join me on that?
Sure.
I mean, would that make sense? Adam, would you be a part of that?
Possibly. How big is this committee? I mean, you may.
Well, I don't know if that conversation with Reedy,
I
Is
think,
a separate-
I think whoever this is the way I'm taking it. You would form your committee, you would get your information together, you would compile it all, send it to them. Or you want to have a discussion with Reedy before you even get
I
started.
think it makes sense. If what Adam is saying is that the impact still has to be to those within the TIF district, if that's a clear directive, we need to know that before we start considering where we'd like to expand. So I think a preliminary discussion with Reedy would be important.
Okay.
And so whether it's those in that committee or whether it's, the 3 of us and then
But we can, yeah.
report back to the committee and then the committee then can, I don't care which way we do it.
I'll help Dan when we get to the point of doing
The
that. And
committee?
It's just like the Maple Leaf TIF is about to expire and we really need to review that to see if there's any benefit or whether we just let it
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in just a few minutes.
So is there anybody else
Oh,
that would want to sit
sorry.
on that committee?
I didn't realize.
No, you're okay.
Being appointed,
How many?
Yeah, I was
could
just
you
gonna
have?
ask, how many do
if
you
we said
need?
3,
Does a non-voting member count?
an ad hoc, I don't, procedurally, I don't know that it would,
I don't know that
As
it
far
would
as
matter.
quorum is concerned, I don't,
I mean, on the one hand, it'd be nice to have somebody from the community and not on the, I mean, just so that there's diversity on that committee.
I think
Were
you
you
can,
interested? If not, I can
I-
sit on it.
you can sit on, I'm fine with that. I just have some personal interest in this from the school board side and from the community side,
Sure.
Yeah,
I
because,
think that would be
you know,
good.
as that falls
Okay.
off, there's gonna be a lot of funds
I
there.
agree.
I know Claypool's trying to do
If he's
things.
willing,
The
I
school
would
system
have
is
him do it.
currently trying to put together a plan for some affordable housing in the area,
yeah.
which
it's
includes our
moving
skilled
along.
trades group out of the high school, some investors and things like that. I know that there's some crisscross there and it's got to go back to the TIF and some value. But there's interest in there, you know, obviously they're going to need all the funds they can find
Yeah.
to try to help
Mhm.
rebuild that community. I just don't know how that affects and how it doesn't.
Thank you for saying that, because Adam, that's something else that, I mean, we talked about the other day, you know, uses of TIF dollars, so education, safety, police, fire. I can't remember some of the other acceptable uses of TIF dollars, but a lot of those would be instances where they would probably be outside of what our current TIF maps are, but would be potentially, or will be if we are authorized to do it, within the impact area. So, okay, so we've got, unless Alyssa or Adam says otherwise, we'll form an ad hoc, which will consist of Dan and Jan and Brad. Is that agreeable to, I don't know if you need to do any research or whether, do you know otherwise if that's problematic, if Brad being a non-voting member?
I think you can form the committee however you want. I don't know what the county's rules are off the top of my head with regard to its particular formation of committees and all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. In general, if a council or a commissioners form a committee, those committees and they're subletting their responsibilities, those committees are responsible for open door law. I don't know off the top of my head if that would apply in this situation or not, but I'm just telling you
Yeah.
in general.
Could you
open
confirm
door
one way or
law
the other?
applies.
Okay, could you then confirm that? Because
If it's even questionable, then put Rachel on. Like I said, I just have personal interest in it.
no,
Well, there's no reason why we can't check into it though.
Yeah.
And
yeah, let's just
confirm
check into it. I think our preference,
with
around the
your
table is that we
knowledge
want you
on this, that
involved.
would be good.
and I think there's something valuable about having, like I had said, somebody that is not a non-voting member representing the
Especially
community.
since that one is such an active one. And there's so much going on down there right now.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we'll proceed with unless you advise us differently. That would be great. I don't think there's any motion that needs to be made to form that ad hoc. Is there a need to?
I don't
No,
think
Don't worry
so.
about it.
Agreed. Okay. So going back though, then to getting the preliminary direction from Reedy. I'm thinking it'd be you, me, and Adam. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Okay,
we
and
can
then
have
I'll
that
report back to
conversation.
the committee as to what is said, or Alyssa can or whatnot. So we'll get something scheduled with Reedy and then get back to the three of you as to what direction Reedy provides. And we'll copy the whole commission, just so everybody's aware of it. Any other discussion on that piece? Okay.
Are we back to approval of the minutes?
Yeah, we're done with that. I see where I did skip ahead on the, wanting to talk about, the meeting dates as opposed to the spending plan, but since we're talking about the maps and whatnot, do we want to jump down to Van Buren and just, it's out of
Sure.
order, but just finish that discussion related to the Maple Leaf TIF?
sure. As Jen pointed out, that will be expiring in 26. As far as we know, there's nothing that we really need to do to just let that sunset. It will just sunset when it's done. I believe Doug has reached out to Maple Leaf to see if there's any other use for the TIF funds. And I think they reported, that they don't have any need for that TIF area anymore.
I spoke with Zach. He went back to the executive team. I don't know if it went to the board, just asking if there would be any reason to maintain that TIF, and they came back and they said no.
So that would be something that we probably also need to discuss with the council and the commission to make sure that they want it to sunset. And then we can proceed accordingly.
Yeah, from our previous discussions, and I believe good discussions with Reedy and possibly even Baker Tilly, that the process of sunsetting a TIF is just letting it sunset.
Mhm.
It'll expire, mature on its given date, and it's done.
Right.
So, Marcia, or Alyssa, who would take it to council and commissioners then, based on your comment?
I don't know if that would be something that Marcia would want to handle in a pre-meeting at some point. Okay, yeah. We'll take care of that.
You'll take care of that. Okay. And if they
then-
want to,
And then we'll have conversation with the commissioners, or with the council, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Maybe Rachel can reach out to them. We'll get
take
that
care of
taken
that.
care of.
Okay, all right. But I mean, is there an agreement at this commission level that we would let the Van Buren TIF, the Louis, not to redirect this, but
Maple
just
Leaf?
lost it, Maple Leaf, thank you, that we would let that sunset? Because I do think we voted on it in the past, but I think we should vote on it again, just so that you can go to the respective boards and let them know our recommendation is that we're going to let it sunset. So is there anyone in disagreement with letting that sunset?
So what happens to the funds in the TIF that are,
They just go back to the units. So it'll go back to Van Buren.
okay,
So any of the taxing units in,
Any of the assessed value that's captured by the TIF area, then will go back to Van Buren Township.
well, but I guess I was referring to the increment that's already been capped, that's showing here.
If there's money, then I believe that's deposited into the general fund.
well, then we should, yeah. So they wouldn't go back to the taxing units.
Well,
So-
any of the money that's left in the fund balance, I think it reverts back to the general fund. And then in 26, 27, they won't be capturing any assessed value. So in 27, then all the assessed value, 27, 20, I don't know, it might be 28, would go back to Van Buren. And no further TIF funds would be collected.
So then the other question are there any other projects? I mean, I think Steve's not here, but, Matt, is there anything else that is happening in that area that those funds could be strategically used? I don't want to use them up if there's no use, good use.
Thank you. Not a whole lot going in that area. Maple Leaf, I think they are the driving force up there. Steve, just from my recollection, had kind of flagged some of the projects he had already, and I think that money was already allocated. Because I didn't miss last meeting, but the one before that, I think that was the discussion of almost spending it down for his money. I don't know how much is left in there, but as far as I know, there's not really in that TIF area anything that's brewing that could be beneficial, so to say, so.
Yeah, because it goes all down from 15,900 all the way down.
Because 262,000 and change is what is in the account at the current.
So why don't we just put that on our to-do list also?
Yeah.
We need to get in contact with Steve and the council and the commission.
So did I hear correctly? Maple Leaf doesn't have any expansion?
Not that would be
planned?
eligible. Not that, again, that brings into question the use of those TIF dollars, but there's no infrastructure projects that they need.
Yeah.
That could be paid out of the TIF funds at this time.
Yeah, so when that was set up, that's why it's got that big long,
Right,
it was set up to reconstruct the road there.
right.
Right.
And I'm not sure how long ago that was. That would be the only thing, is whether that road is good for the
Well, I
next
know
20.
900 north And then I think Steve just did repairs on the, north-south, the north-south roads there.
Right.
Yes.
So you'll talk with Steve and see if there's any other roads around Maple Leaf
I
that,
sure will.
that would make sense. And then nothing that you know of, Matt, that would,
Nothing's been on the radar in that area.
okay. And then, yeah, if we put it in front of the council and commissioners, we'll have covered our bases. So we'll delay making any motions then on that, but all of our previous conversations have been, I believe, broad agreement that we'd let it sunset because there is no other known use. So I think that's the direction that one would assume at this point, unless we hear otherwise from Steve or.
Right. I think it's good that, we continue to talk about it until it's time for the end to come. So
Yep.
we don't, close the door on something prior to
Yeah.
it needing to be closed,
Makes sense.
especially when it's not really, affecting anything at this point.
Right.
Well, if it were to be, extended, the base assessment would change to whatever's there now.
Right.
If nothing is planned, you wouldn't have any.
Yeah, it just doesn't
increment.
continue. You would have to do the documents, the, declaratory and the confirmatory and the whole area to reestablish
You
it.
basically start. all
Because
over.
there's no debt there.
Yeah,
Right, we would start all over,
Right.
and at that point, then we'd have to look
Yeah.
at redrawing the maps if there was
Right.
something to capture, but yeah,
Right.
you're right, though.
Right.
As it currently stands, it wouldn't benefit. Okay, so we'll essentially table that
Yes.
at this
Moving right
time.
along.
Moving right along. Okay, let's see if we can decide on our meeting dates any quicker. So there's a page with our proposed dates. Alyssa, right? They're going to mirror what we did this year, meaning every other month, same time, same place.
Same time, same place. The first Thursday of the month instead of the second Thursday of the month.
Right. We did discuss that change. Everybody's good on that? So, a motion, I suppose?
Yeah, if you want to make a motion and then if you guys take that back, and realize that something's not gonna work, we haven't advertised these yet.
Mhm.
So we still have time if there's something that y'all would want to change.
But our next meeting won't be until the first meeting of next year.
Your next meeting is December the 11th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I read somewhere that our next meeting was gonna be January. Okay. When is our next meeting?
Your next meeting is December the 11th of 25. It says 26 at the bottom of your piece of paper. But it's December 11th. That's your meeting with Reedy.
Oh, okay.
Is July 2nd gonna be okay with the holiday right there?
That's up to you guys.
Bring your fireworks.
We'll be here.
Yeah, I might be out of town on that one, but other than that, I think everything's good on my end.
Anybody else know a conflict on the second?
We normally go away for the,
With 7 members.
yep.
So some of you can miss a meeting here or
Yep.
there, as long as all 7 of you don't decide to go someplace at the same time. You should probably be fine.
I mean, our only other alternative would be to move the July meeting, but
Well, don't do it on my account, only if it's conflict.
Well- the likelihood is that there'll be more conflicts as we get closer to the date. I mean, right now, I don't.
Why don't you guys all look at it and start, just
Okay,
let
so
me know.
we'll.
Just let
table
me
that.
know.
Yeah.
What
But
it
we're
looks
gonna
like.
need to let you know, because you're gonna have to advertise for our January meeting. You're gonna have to start advertising when?
In a couple weeks.
In a couple weeks. So could I ask you to send out an email reminder to the commission that
I'll
they?
send an email with just this and you all can respond
Yeah,
back to me.
yeah.
Individually.
But if we were to choose a different week in the month of July, do we know either known conflicts or known availability?
I did not bring all of the other calendars with me today.
Okay. Could we do this then, when you
Let's just
respond to
approve it.
Alyssa's email, respond to all so we can see?
Also, we can just approve these so they're presented and then in March if something's gonna happen that July meeting doesn't.
Okay.
Or if we can fix it.
We approve the
Okay.
meeting dates.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So we've got a first and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Decided. Thank you for that recommendation. All right. Okay. So we've discussed Van Buren, the meeting dates. Claypool Sewer Expansion Project update.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we did approve the Claypool sewer expansion. In the meantime, Tyler from Baker Tilly had asked a question on how the funds would be acquired for the project. And that is supposed to go before the council tonight for final approval. I just want to share a little bit of information. He asked if the funds could be deposited into the town's construction account, which would be Claypool, that would be held at the Bank of New York. Then he explained that the funds will be drawn after the state revolving fund grants and before any of the loan funds. This would ensure that the approved funds would be spent fully on the approved project, and it would reduce the amount of the bond that would be required for the total project. There again, trying to meet their end goal of lowering the payments for the customers on the monthly basis. So I sent Tyler's question to the State Board of Accounts, and they said that the project would appear to be an allowable use for the TIF funds. However, the State Board of Accounts would likely take exception if the county were to place the county TIF funds into a town bank account, as one unit of government should not hold funds that belong to another unit of government. Even in the case where those funds will ultimately be expended for a permissible purpose, the county should hold and keep our funds in our bank account until the funds are ready to be dispersed. This would mean making some sort of a direct payment to a vendor, something like that along the lines. So I sent that response to Tyler from Baker Tilly, and he had asked if he could reach out to the State Board of Accounts for his own discussion back and forth with them. And I said, yes, go ahead and do that. So tonight at the council meeting, the project will still be presented. However, it will be with the caveat that we get the correct allowable by law state funding path firm before we move on.
So it's gonna happen. It just depends on how it's going to happen.
Yes, we just have to figure out the funding path and,
Mechanism
yep,
disbursement.
Yep. yeah. So
This is an aside, but do you know what the relationship of the Bank of New York, Baker Tilly is recommending that, are they the issue of their bond or?
I think that's where the funds are going, where the construction account is
Correct.
going to be.
Correct, but are they the bond issuer? I guess what I'm wondering is, again, just.
I have no idea who the
funds
bond-
leaving the state.
I have no idea who the bond people would be.
Seems like we would
I think you'd go.
keep the funds here in Indiana, but if it's the Bank of New York is the bond issuer, because you're just saying that some motivations is that it'd be a lower bond amount, so if they held the funds, I'd be curious for clarification if you're in conversation with either State Board of Accounts or Baker Tilly. Were you gonna say something, Adam?
No, I don't have any hand in this.
Yeah, we don't,
Fine
I
use of
mean,
money. It's just a matter of she's trying to figure out the best
Right.
path.
I thought you were
Yeah.
going up to the mic.
No.
Okay. So just for out of idle curiosity, would you ask just why the funds are leaving? And if that bank is the issuer of the bond, that would make sense, but otherwise,
yeah, and I would guess that it's just a matter of process with the whole project of, that's just the way they're setting things up. So that could be a question that maybe you could ask tonight of Don from
but that's, yeah, he's representing the town.
Claypool.
Okay,
I'm sure he's aware of how that works, or you could reach out to him on your own, probably.
yeah, I could just reach out to Tyler.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, any questions for Alyssa on that update related to the Claypool Sewer project?
And we'll continue to give you guys updates as that happens.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is just an update from Adam related to the Fab Lab request.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of start with the recap of it, and then Adam's gonna help us with any questions that you might have and what his part in all of this was. So the Fab Lab request was approved 9/11, on 9/11/25 at your last regular meeting after lengthy discussion between Frank from Fab Labs and the Redevelopment Commission, with the caveat that it would depend on Reedy financial review. Upon Reedy's initial review, they gave the opinion that this was suitable use of TIF funds. However, legal would need to have the final say on the allocation prior to it being presented to the council for consideration and final approval. A second request was made to Reedy to take another look and give a response. They responded that after diving into this further, it does appear that there might be things in these invoices that we could see legal saying do not benefit or serve the Leesburg TIF economic development area. But again, this would need to be reviewed by legal to determine. So after Adam reviewed it, and with the addition of some outside counsel and came to the conclusions that these were not viable spends for the TIF dollars based on two considerations, and he's going to talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, so this is when I guess the attorney gets to be the bad guy. But yeah, Reedy first was, yeah, this is fine. Came back, and Alyssa kind of wrote me in. I was like, I'm not sure about these spends. Even some of you emailed me about some questions on these spends. And then diving into all of that. Like I said, I worked with some attorneys with a much bigger law firm that specialize in doing this every day to review this. Because again, I've got Reedy, the TIF experts, telling us it's fine. It didn't seem like it was correct to me. And working with them, it kind of comes down to two elements after seeing how the funds were being used. First, in general, we had used the conversation in this room on that 9/11 date about whether or not they were infrastructure improvements. And I think even was mentioned of were the infrastructure improvements being committed to the town for public use. And I will note that Alyssa's been very diligent reaching out to the town to try to confirm some of that. Were these infrastructure improvements something that the town was going to have to maintain moving forward? Never got a real clear answer on that. But in general, infrastructure and public infrastructure, I should say, public infrastructure is fine, but the RDC cannot grant TIF money for use by a developer for private property improvements. My opinion is that any entities that are doing that, and there are plenty of them out there, you can probably find examples of it, are going to subject themselves to a possible adverse State Board of Accounts determination. That would come back on Alyssa as the Chief Fiscal Officer for the county. The second part of it is, even if a lot of the receipts that we saw after the 9/11 meeting were for, landscaping, water retention, water, management stuff, and some of those kind of things. But there are some with regard to infrastructure. Even if there could be made an argument for it being public infrastructure, one of our other requirements that you'll see with TIF is that TIF monies are subject to public bidding. So the fact that all the work has already been done and paid for, and it hasn't necessarily gone through that, we can't necessarily let our money go without having some assurance that the public bidding process was honored. And that's the benefit of some of these highway projects, because we know the county highway department is going to comply with public bidding in that process. I did make a couple suggestions. I can give them to you now. There are ways for this money to get there. Again, it's not necessarily where I kind of disagree a little bit in the wording that Alyssa just read, which is not her wording, but Reedy's wording, that whether or not this actually serves or benefits the area. I had some conversations with Doug. it's not a question of whether or not this has the purpose or goes towards the purpose of the economic development of the area in the district. It's more of, is there a mechanism under the Indiana redevelopment law to get the money into the buckets for those uses? And the answer is no. There are other options. One of them would be a forgivable loan from the Economic Development Commission. And then that, if you'll look, I love the handbook that Barnes and Thornburg has together. You'll see in that handbook under the uses of
And
TIF.
Just real quick, that's what was emailed out to everybody that Alyssa sent. So you all have
Yeah.
that.
If you look under uses of TIF, one of those uses of TIF is that you can use TIF dollars to repay those economic development loans on behalf of a private developer. So again, that money going through a different way. There's a great section also in that TIF book, handbook. I think it's page 72 or 73. And it talks about the provisions of, you have a developer and how to get cash TIF dollars into the developer's hands. And there's a long list of options there. None of those are direct grants of TIF dollars into their hands for private development. And so that's what, essentially a direct grant from the 9/11 approval to FAB essentially would be, in my opinion. And so I think it's a no-go going forward in that mechanism and in that tool. But obviously, like I said, I made some other suggestions with regard to that, but that takes a lot more involvement than just this committee, if I put it that way.
Yeah, so I would just add to that, I want to thank Adam and Alyssa just for their diligence in trying to work through these issues. Some of them are not as clear as others, but as a county, I think it's, well, if we could try to find a way to get to a yes under the laws that govern, the use of funds and so forth, rather than just take an easy out and say no. It'd just be easier to say no. And so in that process, they've been doing research on an economic development commission. Does it exist within the county? Has it existed? If it does exist, who are the commission members? Things of that nature. And so a lot of that work is ongoing. I think we do have answers to some of those questions. But then if we wanted to proceed with using an EDC to become part of that mechanism by which we can move TIF dollars according to the TIF law, then it's going to involve the county commissioners and making sure that EDC is established. And so it's going to be a longer process. Anyways, questions, comments from the commission?
Well, if they use like the EDC thing, I mean, is there a test that says that you can't indirectly do what you can't directly do? I mean, that's a legal question.
Sorry, say that again.
So like basically, if you use the economic development loan, forgivable loan, is there a legal question about you shouldn't indirectly do what you cannot directly do?
Yeah. So there is some element of that EDC loan and its forgivability is essentially what it is,
Yeah.
because you're creating a forgivable loan. That's allowed under the state statute. And then separate from that, under the state statute, there's an allowance for repaying those loans with TIF dollars. The legal term is, it's a workaround to the process, right? And that kind of thing. Yeah, I think there are, without maybe pointing out the community or whatever, there's an example of this very recently in the local press, where there was a grant of a forgivable loan. I believe that one's being repaid out of edit for a new company coming into town, but it's a similar, in some ways, similar situation. Yeah.
So another question, I mean, we entertained the whole Claypool thing and the initial request was not doable, but then there were other ways that we could, help that area down there. As I recall, did they spend money on a US 15 traffic flow in
Did the town of
Leesburg?
Claypool spend money on a,
No, Leesburg. So
Leesburg?
I think he said that they had spent some money on a traffic study there. Is that correct?
I think he said that, and I think he also said that the highway said there were improvements that needed to be made. However, they weren't going to pay for them.
Okay.
And so that if he wanted those things done,
I mean,
that would be on them.
yeah. So who spent the money for the traffic study? Did he just request it or did he spend the money, the Fab
I
Lab?
think NDOT is the one, because
Because they lowered the speed limit.
I think you can request the study. I don't know that costs somebody.
well, the traffic counts are, you can go to the website right now and see what the traffic counts are on 15.
Yeah.
I think what the study was is the impact of Fab Labs and the new retailers and commercial businesses in that property. But I believe that went beyond them to say, well, were there deceleration lanes, were there turn lanes, were there, did we need a light for safety? And I think NDOT, provided that, but I can't imagine there weren't some costs to Fab Labs, but I don't remember.
So I guess my questions center around, the use of funds for a specific business versus the whole community benefits, i.e., what we did on West 30 West, right? And if the same type of thing needed to be done in Leesburg with slow down lanes and all that stuff, that would be the right use of the funds, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, improvements to US 15 there to, based on traffic studies, infrastructure necessary for that. Absolutely. Expanded capacity for Leesburg and their sewer. I'm just making up stuff now,
Right.
but you know what I mean? All those kind
So
of things.
if those sewer requests were for more of a main trunk line to get down to the business and that type of thing, that would be an acceptable use.
That would be an acceptable use. I would put the one caveat on what we'd have to be careful about that is, did it go through the public bidding process and did that get honored?
Okay.
But yeah, a developer, I think a lot of times developer installed, main extensions are a pretty common use for, securing bonding and then using the TIF dollars to help, repay, those bonds, those kind of things. Again, that looks a little bit different than an outright grant reimbursement to the developer.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'm kind of glad we forced this discussion that, this is, it would have been much easier for a redevelopment commission to come up with a way to help with the project if we'd have been involved with it from the beginning. Because what happens is we don't have the but for, argument or justification. And we could have perhaps, with some of this guidance, helped get some of this stuff done in a way that could be reimbursed. But we didn't do it. There was no public bidding done on any of this. And
A point of clarification, if a particular job exceeds 50,000, that's when it has to have a bidding, but if it's, can you speak to that, Adam?
There are thresholds that go within that, yeah, but it would still have to go back to, is this a public infrastructure?
No, I understand that, but I mean, just to address that one issue, if we were reimbursing him, somebody came in and painted $40,000, I mean, this isn't the case, but if it was a $40,000 job to do something on that site, it wouldn't have to be bid out because it didn't reach that threshold.
But you just said on that site is the
I-
problem.
Forget that. I'm saying if, there's thresholds,
But yeah, there's absolutely.
there's a
thresholds.
$50,000 threshold.
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, Dan, but I don't, based on what we've learned from Alyssa and from Adam and, again, outside counsel from, Adam, that even if he would have come to us earlier on, I don't know that we could have done much to help them. If the reasons that we can't help them now, would have been known from the get-go.
Yeah.
So I think there's some things that, I mean, I would like to see the county explore. I'd like to see, probably meet with the commissioners and talk to them about, when I met with Carrie to talk about, a number of things, one of which was the Economic Development Commission. And that was formed when there was a bond issued on the Justice Building. But once that was paid off, there was no need for an EDC. So there hasn't been one, an active one, since the completion of the bond on the Justice Building. But it might be an important part of the economic engine in our county to have an active EDC. And so I think it's worth having a discussion. And if they're in place, then that might also then create additional opportunities for an acceptable use of TIF dollars, because I think I'm going to state what you stated earlier, but I don't think there's anyone who knows what Fab Labs has accomplished in Leesburg. Took a vacant building, created jobs, addressed a food desert issue, has improved, a vacant building. That absolutely fits under the umbrella of good and appropriate economic development. It's just, it doesn't fit our funding mechanism.
Yeah, I think that's the key, is that it, there would have been a potential. And here again, it depends on Leesburg sewer, but that whole district was set up when Leesburg put their sewer plant in, or their sewer system in, and connected to Warsaw. And the whole idea was, okay, that could let this area develop. So, the connections to the sewer line, to the grinder pit, could potentially, depending on how Leesburg could be handled as a public infrastructure.
Right.
From the grinder pit to the building, probably not. And that could have been done through public bid. Okay. And then, but, to consider some of these without, it's after the fact, without, okay, it's like a reimbursement, right? And I was kind of shocked when I looked at the invoices, and there's everything but the kitchen sink in there. So it's just unfortunate it happened the way it did, because it's a great project.
Yeah.
I think our questions for the developers, what is planned in the future, and if we can be a little more thoughtful about, okay, what's going to be needed for him to do the next expansion.
Yeah, one of the things that Doug and I discussed yesterday, and he was going to look back because he thought he had a simple one-page document that folks who were going to try to maybe pursue TIF funds could fill out and submit ahead of time. That way we can get all of those kind of questions answered ahead of time and be a little bit more proactive instead of reactive to these sorts of requests.
It's a tough thing when, and this isn't exclusive to Fab Lab. I think Frank's great. I think what they're doing is fabulous. But it has become a cycle with this, is that these are walk-in requests. Some of these requests, even Alyssa and I are sitting over here, and we're not seeing what you're seeing. Where there's no opportunity to review it before it comes in here to advise you or anything like that. And it's these spur of the moment things, and we're throwing around, infrastructure that's committed to, public, use. Okay, that sounds great. Some of the other things. And then when we get a laundry list afterwards, and again, I don't think that's any fault to Frank at Fab Lab. I just think that maybe I appreciated Alyssa sent that application. It was from Illinois, but it was the same concept as what we want to see here. And that's the other thing I would know. These are all viable uses for TIF in a lot of other states, but not in the state of Indiana too. So if you do too much Googling too quick, you'll get off track on this stuff. Stick to the handbook, and follow those things and those kind of things.
Is it also accurate to say that had redevelopment purchased that property, they're going to use those TIF dollars to do that and all the improvements that they're doing?
Yeah.
It's just, it's not a public entity that's doing it. And so that restrains our use of those funds.
There, what, and there's some good discussions with Doug yesterday, and the idea of like, this just feels like we're very limited in what the redevelopment commission can and can't do. And in some ways, I think that's kind of where you're at right now. It's very focused on public infrastructure and that's it. There is a lot of other tools in the toolbox, like purchasing up property, you know, making the improvements, selling it, all those kind of things. But those aren't things that this county and this redevelopment commission has like traditionally done, you know, kind of thing. So there are other tools in the toolbox. Just in this situation, the grants are just something that we can't approve.
I want to drum up past events and everything else, but did we not pretty much do the same thing with Core Mechanical about a year ago? Okay, all right.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard it's been audited and it's all fine.
And that was 2 years ago, prior to a lot of changes that have happened in the past 2 years with laws and rules and funding and those sorts of things. And I believe Adam may have been the attorney then but I wasn't.
I was sitting right over there and I had to recuse myself. And I
Right.
strongly encourage the commission to seek outside counsel on it.
Yeah.
And that's all I could say on it.
Sorry, don't mean to bring up bad.
No,
No, it's
No, it's just,
Good question.
no, it's,
We've had
Yeah.
this same conversation
Right.
because
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, just like when Reedy did a first pass on what we were, you know, what we had approved here, they said yes.
Right.
And if you go to their PowerPoint presentations, when they addressed the county and they addressed, this was acceptable. Now, they weren't detailed and specific in their PowerPoints. I mean, it's very general, so you could easily say, well, no, not that, but yes, this. But it certainly didn't put the guardrails on that should have been, if in fact this wasn't an acceptable form of disbursement. So,
right, and you have to keep in mind that Reedy's presentations are broad and general and not meant to be specific to certain
correct.
certain things.
But if in their broadness, they lead people to think that there's,
I understand, and I
Yeah.
think that's what happened.
in part, for sure.
Right,
for sure.
right.
Um,
Maybe not intentionally by
Yeah.
any means,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I think it did.
yeah. So back to that example though, with, it was Stripe Properties on Old 30. It was asked of the commission, did we want to loan this money or did we want to grant this money? And that was asked of us. Now, to my knowledge, I don't know, in the redevelopment commission history, have we ever lent? Does it, I mean, you're the most,
I haven't had that many tenured years. So, yeah. I'm not that I'm aware of.
I would have the inkling to say no.
I would as well.
Yeah.
And so even at that, so that's something else I want to explore, because even if we were to provide loans that are permissible to private developers, if it benefits the economic impact map, and their attractive terms and rates, that's
Right.
something that falls within our,
And that's the other reason why I encourage you to get with the commissioners and get with the council and see what direction and what they're expecting of you all as the redevelopment commission.
that was made clear to one of the commissioners, and so he was going to get with the other two and try
Right.
to provide some of that direction. So the other thing that I would say, and I think this is just for the benefit of everybody, that that whatever we approve, even though they're TIF dollars and they may have been appropriated, we're still only making a recommendation to the county council.
Right,
County council has final approval
of spending the
of
funds.
spending.
Yes.
So,
And the reason that this is kind of different is before, just a couple years ago, there was never a set budget, a budget set for the redevelopment. If any projects came about, all of the estimates, the cost of that was all gathered and submitted, and the council had to approve an additional appropriation for the dollars for those projects. So that was them approving what was put before them from the redevelopment commission. But now, since we have an actual budget, which was started a couple years ago, Joni asked if they could do a budget, council approved that. That way, if you had projects, there wasn't such the delay.
Special
And-
appropriation.
Yeah, we didn't have to go through the whole additional appropriation process to get funds. So that's why, I mean, it's kind of backwards to some of you who have been here, but it's the process that needs to happen.
So then having said that, we need to make sure that we do a really good job of informing any, any business or I would say even in any municipality that if they're coming before us, they need to understand that we're voting in the affirmative or the negative and making that recommendation to county council. So they shouldn't take any actions until they have final commitment from council.
Absolutely.
So just go to Kevin's comment there at that stretch of road there along Leesburg. We do have an impediment to further development there, in that there's a really dangerous traffic situation with northbound traffic and left turns. And that's something I'm not sure that redevelopment can do anything about that, but that needs to be elevated. At one time, there was a major moves project identified under Governor Daniels to add lanes to State Road 15. It got bumped out when the money didn't go quite as far as they thought it would. But that's something that maybe we could encourage the county to pursue with MACOG, because when they lowered the speed limit to 50 miles an hour. But when somebody stopped making a left turn, there's no place to go.
Mhm.
And that really, and the state won't do it.
Yeah,
Would-
I've seen that. And
Yeah.
if they're successful at Fab Labs, it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah,
Cause
Yeah.
everything's, heading north, it's on that left side.
Yeah.
And you're already coming slow when you're heading south, so it's not as big
Yeah.
a deal that way.
So something we need to probably take up with Steve. Right?
I would say that would be
Mhm.
a good first step.
Yeah, but I think you can play a lot of games as long as you understand the rule of the game. And it's like sitting down at Thanksgiving and somebody brings the new board game down and they, only give you half the rules, and halfway through it, your strategy gets blown up because they share the rest of the rules.
Mhm.
So, right?
And sometimes they're made up as they go.
Yeah. So it's the gray zone stuff that we should, encourage people to get in front of us and understand and get ahead of that. Right? So then we can formulate a strategy.
So, I think that we need to get on our schedule to get, if we're going to retain Reedy services into 2026, that we get them back in here. Because I think we've got a whole fresh set of eyes and understanding that I think we would find that conversation most useful going forward. But we're meeting with them, you said, on the December
I think it was December the 11th.
December 11th.
Yep.
Okay. All right. We'll come with questions on the 11th, right? So, okay, any other discussion around this?
I have
And
nothing.
Rachel said this was a light agenda today.
Well,
And I said,
It looked like it might be. a light
I said,
agenda.
we'll see.
it's okay. We need
Yep.
to talk through these things and that's why we meet. So
Anything else to discuss?
I just wonder, a thought that was going through my mind, that as we have these projects or people that would like to develop or fix up the property or whatever the case may be, I serve on the abatement committee, and we've been creating, Alyssa knows, we've been creating a policy document that it's more of a guideline. It's not, something you have to abide by every detail, but it helps people know if they even qualify. for certain abatements.
Right, and I think that's
Um,
what that document. Right, and I think that's what that document, if we could get,
And that's what, yeah, I mean, do we have that document for these people that come in? Or is there anything for them to go off of to know if what they're going to be presenting is?
I believe if I remember correctly, it's just an application just for them to identify kind of the scope of what they're wanting to do and all of the pertinent contact information and whatnot. I don't believe that it was a vetting process necessarily. Marcia, I know KEDCO, under Alan Teo, was working on a handbook for companies that wanted to relocate or expand in the county. And it listed, and I'm sure I can dig up a copy of it, of the various levers that could be pulled at the county level or city level, at the county level, whether it be abatements, tip dollars, whatnot, that could help provide incentive for them to locate here. I believe there was an updated version of that, though. Do you have any recollection of that, or Alyssa? Or?
that could be something that maybe Doug, you could reach out to Peggy or
Reach out to
Dawn.
Peggy, because I thought there
Directly.
was something that was developed that we could deliver,
Right,
like even with Slate, right? You know, here's,
Well,
Well,
the
'cause
county,
We
Developed.
had, yeah, and we had one for abatements as well, but it was 10 years old. And you
Right.
know, so there's a lot of different, like you said, there's ever-changing laws each
and
session. so-
basically what the document would do for the redevelopment commission would be the same mechanism of what the council is
Yes.
going to use it for their abatement purposes. Like I said, it would give an overview of the project, how the funding would be handled. That way we can have all of those things hammered out
Right,
and decided if it's legal,
Right.
lawful, and allowable for us to do.
and
Before
supported-
they even come.
and
Before
supported
they,
by-
Present.
and before they even come.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
but, and supported by council and commissioners. And one of the pieces that I want to understand, maybe this is even a question for Reedy, but if we give abatements to a company that's located in a TIF, then they're not paying taxes into the TIF, that we would use those TIF dollars then. I mean,
An
to me,
abatement
it's
is-
almost
Abatement is usually used as an attraction tool.
understood,
It's not given to somebody who is already in existence within a TIF area.
but did not Louis Dreyfus get abatements because they expanded?
From the beginning, yes, they got TIFs when they first came
No, but they had.
To
abatements.
attract
They had
them.
abatements for additional equipment
to attract them, and the council has allowed abatements for them
subsequent.
subsequently.
Correct. I mean,
Right,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I don't know that it'd be accurate to say that it's only to companies relocating. We are also giving it to those who are expanding abatements. But my point is, I think it'd be helpful, I know at least for me, to understand what the true impact of an abatement is on the benefit of a TIF. Because those two seem like they're in conflict with one.
which I agree to some extent.
Right. And to the extent that you don't is what I need to understand.
Right, right. The biggest thing is again, the attraction to get the area developed and get those people here is the big
Right.
thing. And then the rest of it's pretty much up to the abatement committee to review along with the council in their case by case basis. And right now, you know, we have these 5, 6 TIF areas and we have 3 abatements. So, and one of them's not even to the stage where it's even taken effect yet. So as far as county government and abatements and TIFs, we're not there.
Mhm.
Some of the other municipalities are.
But yeah, I guess my point was just having a document in place, a current document that has, I'm just gonna call it qualifications, right? You know, a guideline for them. I don't know if that would be presented to them if they're interested going through the EDC or where that would start. Like for us, for the council, it starts through KEDCO. You know, so they're gonna basically work with these companies or people revitalizing properties, give them this policy, so that they can go through that and see the company or whomever is considering this project. They go through the document and they realize, oh, I don't qualify for this, or, oh, I do qualify for this. And then it comes back to KEDCO. Here's our application, if you will. And then KEDCO decides from there, okay, they do or don't meet the qualifications. If they do, then KEDCO brings it to the abatement committee. And then the abatement committee would then decide, does this go before the council or not? And that's kind of the different stages, but it starts with that application form. It takes the emotion out of it. You know what I mean? It takes the, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? We've been working with our county attorney to make sure that everything meets law. And so kind of making sure every detail is in there to do a vetting process in the beginning. That way, before it comes before the council, or in this case, redevelopment commission, you'll have already done all the difficult questions of, is this or isn't this going to qualify? And then you can just look at, okay, let's see what we need to do to get it done. Right. So it would be nice. I think it's a similar, obviously different scale, but it's a similar process, and it would be kind of nice to see. So whether that takes in our case, we did it through the abatement committee, but in this, if you would have to do another, little ad hoc committee to create this document, or revisit the document that we have, look at it. Is it up to date? Is it current? What else do we want to put in it? We pull in our, attorney and we look it over. I think that it's worth looking into, especially as we continue to grow and look at better ways to use TIF funding.
Well, and I think KEDCO should be a part of that.
For the,
Well, originally they were the author of just that. Basically, what are the incentives if you were to relocate a company to Kosciuszko? So, I mean, we could create those guidelines for our purposes, for the abatement purposes, but KEDCO would benefit.
So we started, to that point, we started with KEDCO and our abatement committee, just kind of brainstorm and get the ball rolling. And then it went back to abatement, where each abatement committee member called surrounding counties and asked their processes, asked for their documents, and some of them were online, right? So it just depends on how big the county is, but you can get this. You don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel, because a lot of counties around us do similar processes. So if we can pull different ideas, and then we drew from those documents and created our own, also going off of the document that we had from 10 years ago, and created a nice, policy based off of that. And then once the abatement committee had, rolled that out, we ran it through, of course, our county attorney, and then we pulled KEDCO back in. We just met again, and we were looking through that document, looking at the draft. And so we involved them at the beginning, we involved them at the end, but it was we worked through it
I would assume
ourselves.
that document becomes part of their toolbox then when they're
Yes.
meeting with,
And it's gonna have to go before council and get approval, just like that would have to go through us, I'm sure, to get approval to be able to roll that out and allow that tool to be accessible online, but for KEDCO to kind of help. It gives them a guideline.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
I don't know, for what it's worth, many years ago when KEDCO was kind of organized, and I don't want to say too many years ago, but KEDCO kind of served as the vetting organization for the redevelopment commission. In other words, people didn't come directly to redevelopment.
Right.
They were directed to KEDCO.
Yeah.
And then when the vetting was done, KEDCO could come to redevelopment and say, here's the project and why, and here's what we recommend.
Which is what, that's what we're
and for
doing
what
on the
it's
council.
worth, that's Fab Lab started with KEDCO.
Did they?
And that's why they came to us for the a Ready 2.0 grant
Okay.
at their recommendations. And that's how that all began, but it's evolved.
It just sounds like our tools are outdated, so
Yeah.
maybe we need
Yeah.
to circle back to those.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Second. No discussion. All right. Thank you, everybody.
please don't leave any signatures from
Some of you.
Oh.